Okay, so my last video got interrupted. That's something that you have to deal with when you don't edit, apparently. But I was talking about why so many people still vote for Donald Trump. That was kind of a side thought. What I really wanted to be talking about was money in politics. And I started moving in that direction when I said Donald Trump was elected. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. He said some weird stuff about Elon Musk being very good at computers and that was really going to benefit them in the election or something like that. It's like, but I've seen some videos that talk about anomalies, but yeah, I guess that the reality is that either we are stuck with him or something extremely major is going to happen, and no analysis or screaming on my part is going to make anything like that happen. So let's just deal with that. Okay, so Trump is our president. He got voted for. And I think that when somebody gets elected, that it, like really elected, that they are embodying something that people are really wanting. And you can see this in big shifts in both parties. Like, Republicans have been very liberal at times, and liberals have been very Republican at times. I don't know. Like Clinton, for example, was a Democratic president, but he was still very focused on big business. And business is what's going to save us, not government. That's a very Republican idea. And a Democratic president that we had for 8 years was pushing that, and he still pushes that. But when you compare that to some of the Republican presidents that we had before him, like during the New Deal, that kind of stuff, that era, he looked way more Republican and conservative than even Republican candidates and presidents. So yeah, you see these big shifts, and it's not, I don't think that it's really just in the parties. I think that it's a reflection of what people are feeling and wanting. And then the politicians just respond to that. And so I think that the election of Trump was a response to a growing sentiment in the United States that the government is not taking care of the people, that the government is neglecting the people, that the government is very partisan, is very gridlocked, that they're unable to get anything done because they're just fighting so much. And I think that goes back to money, being in politics, because instead of politicians being representative or beholden to their constituents, the people in their state or in their district or in their city or whatever it is that they're being elected for, maybe not so much on the small scale, but definitely on the big scale, instead of having to respond to the people that vote for them, they have to respond to the people that give them money, because campaigns are extremely expensive. And if you don't have that money, then you're not even going to get elected in the first place. So you've got to take the money, and this is both Democrats and Republicans. And there's probably some independents in there too that need that money. And once you get that money, then you have to get more money because there's re-elections. And if they're not giving their money to you and trying to take care of you, then they're giving their money and trying to take care of somebody else. And when they're taking care of somebody else, then they're attacking you. They're taking care of the people that will actually take care of their interests, and it really doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum they are on. If they are taking care of your interests, then you'll support them. If you can get that politician in your pocket, it doesn't really matter if they're a Democrat or Republican. And that has led us to a place where Congress gets very little done, which is really a shame because we need Congress. We need them to be representing us because our world is changing so much. We need to keep up with it. And the judicial branch isn't doing it for us. I mean, it would be great if they were doing it for us too, but it's not really their job to keep up with the times. It's their job to conform to the laws. And one thing that's really regrettable for the judicial branch is that a lot of them are originalists. They try to look back at what was originally intended in the Constitution. And the reason that's a bad thing is because when the Constitution was written, it was a very different world. Women didn't have the right to vote. Blacks didn't have the right to vote. Poor people didn't have the right to vote. It was the wealthy and influential people that were our founding fathers. They did not see democracy the way that we see democracy. They said, no, we don't want a democracy. We want a republic, not a democracy. And a republic is a kind of democracy where you have representatives making decisions instead of people making decisions. If it were a pure democracy, then we would all vote on everything, which is burdensome for one problem. So a pure democracy really is not a great way to go. But for them, when they were much smaller and it wasn't quite as burdensome, they still didn't want it because they didn't want stupid poor people making decisions that would take their money. And this is all of the founding fathers. I don't know, you might have some in there that, and like I said, I am not a library of all of the names. I couldn't tell you all of the signers of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or anything like that. I couldn't tell you which way that they were leaning, but I do logic. So I've got that going for me. But I have been listening to the people that actually know what's going on, like Heather Cox Richardson's, like Noam Chomsky. Okay, he's embroiled in the scandal with the Epstein files, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It doesn't mean that he hasn't been involved in this. So I listen to people who know what they're talking about, and then I'm putting my own little spin on it. I'm adding my voice to the chorus. Am I adding anything new? Maybe I'm making some connections that others haven't really made, but I'm putting my energy out into the universe to influence others and to influence the system, to making my voice heard. So I'm listening to these others, and they're talking about how, Noam Chomsky, I mentioned in the books, The Consequences of Capitalism is what I'm taking this from, is where he's talking about the founders of our country were racist and sexist and believed in protecting the rich people, because if the poor could vote on everything, then they would take the money and the resources of the rich people. And we don't want that kind of chaos. For one thing, we want to protect ourselves. They also didn't create capitalism. They didn't function in capitalism. I was raised to think that capitalism was this wonderful, amazing thing, and everything else was bupkis or worse. And the founding fathers didn't even believe in capitalism. It was not really something that existed back then. They came from a much more feudal system, a much more aristocratic system, and they believed that these poor, stupid people would not just take the wealth of the wealthy, but they would waste it. And it's much better for these intelligent, rich people to take care of these stupid poor people with their benevolence. And it's hard to do that if you don't keep your wealth. So it was important for these rich, intelligent people to keep their wealth and take care of the poor people and take care of the country. And that's why originally the Senate wasn't even elected by you and me, by average people. That they had to make a change to that so that everyday average voters would actually elect the Senate. Before that, it was chosen by the Congress of each state would choose their own senators. And so it was the people that were elected that would select the Senate to send to the national government. Okay, so yeah, very different world today than it was when the Constitution was written. And that's only one example. I mean, they were still riding horses. There was no telephone. There was no electricity. There was no television or radio. You know, they had to communicate by lamp, right? One if by land, two if by sea, or whichever it was. I might have it backwards, I don't know. Whatever it was, that was how they communicated, by shining lamps at each other. This was the circumstances under which our Constitution was written. And in a world, in our current world, with our supercomputers and with AI and with the global economy, we think that document is still going to manage how we operate, how we function. Our population is educated. Our population is actually all wealthy. I mean, you look at the poorest people now, and you compare them to the richest people when the Constitution was written, it's a very different situation. And when I say stupid and poor people back then, a lack of education was part of the stupidity. They don't understand economics. They don't understand trade. So yes, our world is changing very rapidly, and our government is not keeping pace. We are depending on a 250-year-old document. Well, I guess maybe it's less than 250 years old, because I think the 250 might be for the Declaration of Independence rather than the Constitution. And we had other forms of government before the Constitution was written, after the Declaration of Independence. But yeah, it's an extremely old form of government, and that's fine. There's probably not something better, but it needs adjustments, and we're not getting the adjustments. We are reinterpreting things. The judicial branch is doing that, while saying that they're originalists. But so what should they be doing instead of being originalists? They need to use modern interpretation, modern logic, modern humanism, modern rationalizations. What's going on right now? I don't care what the founding fathers thought about drugs. I care about what's happening right now with these drugs. So why should we interpret our laws based on what the Constitution says? It doesn't say anything about drugs, but the Constitution was made to be amended. One of even before they signed the Constitution, and this I get from, I think it's called a book called We the People. But even before it was signed, the states looked at it, and every one of them came back with amendments. They're like, if we're going to ratify this Constitution, we're going to need amendments. So even from its conception, amendments were an important thing to do. And we haven't had an amendment for 50 years, since the 1970s. is the last time we had an amendment. And I think that part of that comes from this gridlock, this partisanship, this vitriol that the different parties have between them. And why? Well, okay, that goes back to being beholden to the rich. And it's not necessarily the rich politicians. It's the rich businesses, rich individuals that are pumping lots and lots of money into these elections, into these campaigns, so that they can control the people that are getting elected. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're not doing it based on ideologies, moral, political, whatever. They're looking to take care of themselves. That's why they're pumping all this money in. It is a tit for tat. It is quid pro quo. They're trying to get something out of this politician, and so they buy it. They are buying our politicians. And because we let money be in government, the people that we elect aren't representing us. And that means that we've got gridlock. And that means that we don't have a Congress that is changing the law in response or in preparation for the world that we live in. AI is a really big one. AI is coming. We all know that it's coming. We're all worried about it, but we're not doing anything about it. Things like there's talk, one of the ways that AI creators promote AI is by saying, this is going to make our society so productive that people aren't even going to have to work. Isn't that great? We're not going to have, the machines, the computers are going to do it all for us. We won't even have to work. Okay, well, how do you make money if you're not going to work? Oh, I don't know, maybe give people a wage, just like a living wage. Universal living wage, you just give it to people. Here's money, go and spend it how you like. You didn't even have to work for it. The computers did all the work and you get all the money. Isn't that great? Okay, cool. If that could work, I guess we could try that. It's all an experiment. And yet, we're not creating any kind of structure to make that happen. Oh, what are we going to make it happen after the fact? That sounds like a horrible idea. Why don't we get things into place ahead of time? And if our Congress can't get anything done, then we're not going to be ready when something comes, when AI comes, when another pandemic comes, when the aliens come, when China attacks Taiwan, when I don't know, an asteroid hits the Earth, whatever. We're not going to be ready. I don't know what legislation they would pass in preparation for an asteroid hitting the Earth. Maybe that one should be removed from the list. But yeah, I kind of feel like the root of all this is the money that has a stranglehold on our politicians and therefore our governments, and therefore everybody feels like they're not taken care of, feels like government is doing nothing. And I think that is the growing sentiment that led us to fascism, that led us to choose Trump. And if it wasn't Trump, then it would be somebody else that was willing to be a fascist, because we are so tired of our government doing nothing that we're desperate for somebody to cut through the red tape, to throw things out, and to get things done. And from that perspective, I can't really blame them. Those people that voted for Trump, I don't know. Maybe that's why a third of people are still voting for Trump. Are still supporting Trump. Because he's still better than the alternative. Well, in their minds. He's still getting things done. He's not sitting around and waiting for Congress to do something and urging them to do something. Hey, why don't we reschedule marijuana or psychedelics? He just signs an executive order. That's kind of nice that you can just do that. But so little of it is being done. Instead of cutting through the red tape to take care of people, to take care of us, he's cutting through the red tape, breaking laws, ignoring institutions. Laws. Committing treason. Selling United States secrets to foreign countries to enrich himself. That's why I say treason. Selling United States secrets to enrich himself. That's treason. Doing those things. That's what he's doing instead of taking care of us. He's cutting through the red tape. He's breaking the laws. But he's doing it for himself. Every time. I don't think that there's any place that he's not trying to take care of himself and his friends. Hiding the Epstein files. Promoting fossil fuel usage instead of anything renewable. Paying companies to not pursue renewables. All to enrich himself, his family, and his friends. And while it'd be great to have a benevolent, kind-hearted monarch, ruler that could actually fix all of our problems and then turn the power back over to us, that's not what we have now. And it's probably not something that we can actually hope for. No, we actually need to do the work ourselves. And what do I have to give? Well, I attend rallies. And I give YouTube videos views. I wanted to do more. So I don't have a whole lot of money to put towards campaigns. I've got all these kids, I've got all this debt, still getting my life in order after believing that someone else was in charge of me for 40 years. I'm not really in a position to run a campaign for myself or anybody else, but I can do this, so here I am. And I hope that you got to hear some new ideas and new perspectives, and the energy that I'm putting out to the world might be a contribution. Okay. Thanks for listening to all this stuff. I hope you have awesome days ahead of you. And I'll message more, I'll video more, I'll say more soon, probably, hopefully. I'd like to do this, even if it is a little stretch for me. Okay, bye.